Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where we bridge the worlds of the taboo topic of money with the woo-woo world of manifestation. We're your hosts, Chris and Jenny Schultz.
We're not just about dollars and cents around here. We're all about lifestyle design. You can be working towards financial independence while still living a life you love today.
Get ready for insightful conversations with guests who have embraced the FIRE movement by achieving financial independence and retiring early, as well as entrepreneurs and individuals who defied the norm and have paved their own way to a life they love.
Together, we'll explore the powerful connection between mindset, financial freedom, and living a purposeful life. And of course, we'll be sharing our own journey to how we carved our path to a seven-figure net worth before hitting the big 4-0. Are you ready to ignite your financial future? Then let's dive right in.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where your journey to financial independence and the life you love begins now.
Do you need a gentle kick in the pants to wake up and realize that you get to create your life? Lifestyle design goes way deeper than just choosing the outfit that you want to wear tomorrow. We're talking those big lifestyle choices, things like family, career, relationships. My guest on the show today, Sandra Possing, embodies a digital nomad lifestyle, and she works with clients to break through what's holding them back so that they can create extraordinary lives that they love. So grab a cup of tea, snuggle up on the couch with us for the next 23 minutes, and we will write you a permission slip to lean into that life that you are destined to step into. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, Sandra.
Thank you so much for having me. These are two of my favorite topics of all time, so I'm pretty stoked to be here.
Yes, some of my favorite guests are the girls who like to talk about money and the girls that like to talk about manifestation, and today we've got them both. It's perfect. Can you share a bit about who you are and what your story is?
Yes, I change my title and how I introduce myself all the time. It's one of those things where I'm like, don't put me in a box, including I'm not going to put myself in a box, that kind of a thing. But to some people say I'm a life coach. To some people say I'm an entrepreneur and I have a personal development company. Like people who aren't in the coaching world, I tend to say something like I'm an entrepreneur. I have a personal development company. These days, I feel like a lot more folks know what coaching is, and life coach actually means something to them. I've been doing this for 12 years now, which makes me kind of like, I don't know, an elder in the coaching world, I guess, or like a dinosaur or something, because it's such a new industry, but I feel like I've been around the block now for a hot minute. I am originally from Scandinavia. So I was born in Sweden. I have a Danish mom, a Swedish dad. I moved to LA when I was 5. So I went from like Viking land to Hollywood, which is very different and kind of set the tone in a lot of ways for setting me up for my story, which is like a lot of the work I do is very identity based. And I think that comes from my own experience of growing up with two very different identities side by side. I was like a secret agent, had two parallel lives. And still to this day, when I go there, I feel so obnoxiously American, like almost to the point where I'm embarrassed, but I try to embrace it. And then when I'm here, I feel so European. I feel so different. I feel so Scandinavian, which is something that I think as a younger person, I was like desperately trying to fit in and conform like many of us do. And then as I got older, I was like, fuck that noise. And so then I started to more and more embrace like the different sides of me. And I'm actually really grateful for an upbringing where I had two very different cultures, two different languages, and just, it was like this mishmash of influences that ultimately led me to one of my greatest values, which is travel / freedom / adventure, whatever you want to call it, which has laid the foundation for how I live my life, how I run my business, how I coach my clients. It's like kind of a cornerstone of everything that is me, I guess you could say. That piece around freedom and being untethered and being like mobile and being able to live and design our lives in a way that is true and authentic to who we are. So that's kind of the other piece of what I do. A life coach is so generic. It could mean anything, but I mostly am helping people figure out who the heck they are and what they actually really want. And then we go design that. So it's kind of like an intersection of personal development, personal empowerment, and lifestyle design.
Mm-hmm. I would love to hear your take on what is lifestyle design.
Yeah. Lifestyle design to me just means designing your life on purpose. I think most of us fall into a path, and that path is generally kind of like predetermined by maybe your parents, your caretakers, your social circles, your peers. I grew up down in LA in a very achievement-based paradigm. I think in so many of my clients are the same. So this kind of like, modern world, get a good education, get a good job, AKA 9-to-5 job, because that's the only thing that's like responsible, right? Save for retirement, be an adult, be responsible, and then if you're a good girl, you can like go on a 2-week cruise when you're 75, which will probably be the retirement age by the time we get there. So much of that conditioning to which I've been like, bye, Felicia, no thanks. I'm going to opt out of all of that.
Yeah, I love that. I love lifestyle design. And when I say it to people, they're like, what is that? And I'm like,
Yeah.
that is like the basis of where you should be leading your life from, right? You get to choose. If you make a decision, you're going to go work a 9-to-5 and you want to work a job, that's fine. But if you find yourself hating that job, pick up from that spot and move to something else, pivot into something different. And so many people are like, oh, but I can't. Like, I took the training to do this job. I'm just supposed to ride it out for the next 30 years. I'm like, no, that's wrong. That's backwards. That's an expectation you've made up that you're holding yourself to. That's not true.
It's bananas to me how many of us like don't realize that we actually have a choice. And everyone kind of gets shuffled into whatever conventional path to success that is the one that was handed to them by like parents and school and whatnot. The school I went to for high school was a public school, but it was very competitive. So it was as if you could lump all of my graduating class in high school had like 800 people. So it was a big school, 3,200 kids. And you could almost like hoard people into like, okay, those guys are going to be lawyers. Those guys are going to be doctors. Those guys are going to be engineers. And everybody else, it was like, you better figure shit out and fast, because which one of these three are you? It was like that was the kind of expectation. But now I'm like, not only do you have a choice and not only do you have to go some conventional path, but you're also allowed to change your mind. This is what kills me. Like so many of, especially my female clients, they do, because they're good girls. They do what they thought they were supposed to do, and they're being who they thought they were supposed to be. And they did that, most of them are corporate. Most of them are like following the roadmap. And then once they're in something, even if they know, okay, I'm miserable, I don't know if I need to be an entrepreneur, but whatever this is, I can't do it. Maybe it's a different job, a different state, a different something, but they're so terrified to leave their current situation because they think they're like not allowed to, or they think like, I got an MBA, so now I have to stick with this job. Or I've watched people go through med school or law school. That's a lot of years, and then change their mind. Like, you're allowed to change your mind. One of my mentors, Andrea Crowder, one of many mentors from, how we are. We just like everybody on the internet is a mentor, but she says, you are allowed to change your mind about anything or anyone at any time. And that's become like a mantra between my husband and I, because we're like, you are. You could be deep into the path of something and be like, you know what? No, not for me.
Yeah. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I had learned that lesson earlier on in life. Like, I hit the graduate from high school part, and I did I have to pick something in a college or university. I just felt like I had to, because I like how you use the term, be a good girl, and then advance to get that job after that, which then I had to just ride out till retirement. And that's what you're supposed to do. Right. So I was like, I feel like I should do something with computers, That's what my counselor keeps telling me. So I went and I signed up for computer science. I am a creative soul. I should have signed up for like graphic design in computers. I bet I would have flourished at that. Instead, I tried to force myself down this path that didn't fit. And thankfully, it was only 3 years into that where I said, screw this, I'm out, and completely ditched the whole traditional school path from that point anyways. I just wish I would have had that lesson earlier on, that it's okay to figure things out. It's okay to go at your own pace. It's okay to pivot whenever you want. Just because everybody else is making a decision right now doesn't mean that you have to make a decision too. Just to give ourselves that freedom and flexibility when making bigger decisions in life.
And when we're all conditioned to make decisions from a place of like, I got to make the right choice. What the hell is the right choice? Right, according to what like universal law book that we've all been handed in humanity. So many of my clients use words like, I don't know if I'm making the right decision. And I'm like, what is right? What is the right decision according to your parents? According to your parents' friends that they want to be able to, impress them with your success, according to your friends, according to society, or the right decision for you, like what you actually want, which most of them are so out of touch with what they actually want, which is like, that's like the whole journey is trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
But it's like, another one of my mentors, Amy Sangster, she often says like, what are you optimizing for? And it's like, yes, okay, if we're going by the kind of old paradigm, traditional roadmap of I'm optimizing for quote unquote success, which like, I think a lot of us believed, or I used to believe that it was about like getting a good job with good title, with good pay, that impresses your parents, like that kind of thing, So it's like, if you're optimizing for that, great, but you probably aren't going to get, fulfillment, happiness, health, and those kinds of things there too. If you're optimizing for, like in my case, I would be optimizing for alignment or fulfillment or growth or expansion. And maybe you're optimizing for different things in different chapters. Maybe as a young person, you're just optimizing for like curiosity and exploration. I'm going to try enough different things so I could figure out what the heck I even like. Maybe when you're like early career, you're optimizing for, I don't know, success fast so that you can chill later, or like you're optimizing for growth, or you're optimizing for learning. In some cases, maybe there's a chapter where you're just optimizing to make as much money as you possibly can in a short amount of time. If you're an early entrepreneur, maybe you're hustling, and that's okay because you're willing to just go hard for 5 years so that you can cruise later.
Yeah.
But it's like none of us stop and actually think about, why am I doing this? And what do I actually want? We just blindly do what the roadmap says, and then end up miserable and burnt out and overwhelmed and like resentful of everyone and everything around us.
Yeah. And then, like you said earlier, you don't want to be backed into a corner or put in a box. And so many of us have put ourselves into a box without even realizing that we put ourselves into a box. Yeah. I like that you reframing in there too, that at different chapters of your life too, that could change for you, whatever that expectation is that you're holding for yourself, or what you're wanting to do or optimize pivots. I know when Chris and I initially really wanted to buy a place in Mexico to fly back and forth to. And it's glaringly obvious now that I have kids that just feels like work in an unfun kind of way. So we got a lake home that's 20 minutes down the road that we pop back and forth to. So the goals and the dreams, the big things, they can change, and that's okay.
And it's not some sort of like massive personal failure.
No.
If you change your goal, nobody else actually cares anyway. Like it's about you and your fulfillment and your happiness in your life. And we're all choosing in favor of people's perception of us and what's going to make that look good, when ultimately like that doesn't matter. That's why I'm so committed to, when I'm helping clients, like getting down to their truth, like and their truth can change, and like helping them realize that, it's about who you are deep down and what you actually want. Like if no one was going to be mad at you, if no one was going to judge you, like what would you actually really want? And then owning the shit out of that, and then knowing that you can change it tomorrow if you want to.
Yeah. And when you're working with a client in that space, how quickly does somebody grasp that?
It varies so much. There was a gal who I was working with who, like, less than a month into it, she was just kind of like, you flipped my whole world upside down. Like I had no idea that it hadn't even ever occurred to me. Like I'm 30, whatever years old. It never occurred to me to even like think this way. She was just on the, immigrant parents, like, and I work with as an immigrant. I think I attract a lot of also kids of immigrants or immigrants. And so the immigrant, for anyone who's familiar, the immigrant mentality is pretty similar. It's like, we came here to pursue the American dream. We worked our asses off to give you the potential future kid. Like you better work hard, be successful, get a good education, and then take care of us and be grateful. It's like that kind of, like with the most love and best intentions. But, and this gal was like, it had never occurred to her to do anything other than what she was supposed to do. And like, you grind and you blah, blah, and she was like, I can do what I actually want to do. And she's like, what do I want to do? And she's like, what if I want to do this? And then another gal who I worked with for maybe like 18 months or so, she said something toward the end of our time together that really struck me. She was like, so I've been hearing you say all this stuff about like, you can create your own reality and like, you can choose your destiny and like lifestyle design and stuff. And like, I've been hearing you use those words for a couple of years. Initially, I thought I understood what it meant, but like, I thought it meant that like, I could decide what color sweater I put on tomorrow if I want to, have a different stuff. She's like, I didn't realize that you meant that I could like quit my job and go to a totally different job, or I could like move to a different place, or I could like heal my childhood trauma, or I could, there was like all these things that were much deeper and big that she was like, we are that powerful and we do have that much choice. I didn't realize that.
That must be fun to watch clients' eyes open up to that and the whole world just expanding in front of them, right? And you talking about this lifestyle design, I know you like manifestation too. So I am wanting to know what kind of some of your favorite manifestation processes are.
Oh my God. I love all of it. I'm like such a nerd. You know, it's one of those things I'm like, I read all the books, I listen to all the podcasts. So of course I listen to podcasts like yours that literally have it in the title too. Just like give me all of, and it's so fun because my husband makes fun of me because he's like, what are you reading? And he's like, haven't you read that like 1,000 times? And I'm like, but it's a different person saying it in a different way this time. And it just hits different, you know? So I've read all the books that are like the classics, most of them written by white men 100, 150 years ago. They're very cringy, very like politically incorrect, but the concepts are sound, you know? And then I listen to most of my manifestation teachers now are Gen Zs on TikTok or like millennial girls on Instagram. And I absolutely love them and I'll, you know, just consume their stuff voraciously. What I find is that the tools are all just tools. And the tools work if you believe they'll work. I see people, especially on the internet, get so caught up in like, oh, I have to do the, you know, the 3-6-9 method, or have to say my affirmations this way, or have to use this particular kind of crystal at the full moon. There's so many like funny little rituals and things. And I'm like, if you love them, great. But none of them are actually necessary. To me, manifestation is like the intersection between quantum physics, neuroscience, human consciousness, which no one has even still figured out how to explain that. And then like the limitless resourcefulness of the universe, which is like, I would describe that as each of us and our connection to the divine, however we see it. And then also like very physical 3D reality, like taking a bunch of action. So it's like goal setting, but like in a spiritual way, you know? So it's like, it's so many different things. But I think the cool part, which, you know, ties in my whole approach to life and business, is like, you got to do it your own way. So for me, it's like, I love it. So I kind of check in with my clients. I'm like, are you open to the spiritual? Are you open to the woo? Or like not interested? And most of them are interested and kind of new to it. And so I'm like, welcome to my library, you know, just like let them in. But then I kind of feel out like, do they want the more spiritual stuff? Do they want the more sciencey version? Do they want the more like neuroscience versus quantum physics versus, and then I point them to the resources that I think will land for them because they're so different. You know, you hear some like Valley girl talking in a super spiritual way, it's going to be like such a turnoff for one person. Whereas somebody else explaining the science behind it is going to be a huge turnoff for somebody else. It's so fun to discover, to like expose people to the different tools and rituals and approaches and see which one lands and then just watch them go in. It's like they're in like a magic store trying on a bunch of different wizard hats. And then they find the wizard hat that fits them right. And they look in the mirror and they're like, damn, I look good. And then they feel powerful. And then they're just like, boom, and they start doing a bunch of magic. So for me personally, like it's different from my clients, but for me personally, I'm not into crystals. I'm not really into like witchy. I love calling it like the witchy shit, but I'm not really into like super specific rituals. For me, the fastest shortcut is identity work. It's the like, figure out what you want, figure out who you have to become to create that, and then just practice showing up as her now. So it's like, I think of it as like, I am here. My future self that has everything I want is here. How do I like close the gap? How do I collapse time? So to me, that's just kind of a combination of like physical things, mental things, emotional things. I'm doing a bunch of mindset work and like nervous system work and like physically and energetically embodying my future self essentially. And I'm trying to remember as much as possible to just walk around in the world as her and think as her and believe, as so much of it is just belief. Do I believe that the thing that I want is possible? Do I believe it's possible for me? Do I believe that I'm worthy of it? And like the version of me that already has it, how does she think? How does she talk? How does she carry herself? And like, for me, just putting myself into the physical posture of her is my favorite tool. Like I try to just walk around and do that as much as possible.
Fun. That just makes me think of my daughter walking around with her princess crown on, and she carries herself different, right? Because she is walking around like that little princess character just by the way she's holding her whole body. So you, on top of all this manifestation stuff, have created kind of what I think a lot of female entrepreneurs would classify as their dream business. You have a 6-figure business that you are able to run from anywhere in the world, right?
Yes.
And you get to work with all these amazing people. So for somebody who's listening to this and is like, oh, I want to be just like her, what are some things that you could suggest to somebody who's just wanting to start out and become a digital nomad like yourself?
Number one, believe that it's possible and like find expanders. Expanders, for anybody who's not familiar, it's a term, I believe it was popularized by Lacey Phillips of To Be Magnetic. It's her company, but the term just means like people who are an example of what you want. So for me, early on, I found a bunch of expanders, mostly on the internet, but it could be people in real life too, who I'm like, I'm basically not interested in taking any advice from anybody who doesn't have something that I want, you know? So it's like when like your family and friends who've all only worked 9-to-5 jobs are trying to give you advice about your online business. I'm like, thanks for sharing your feedback. La, 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 not listening, you know? So it's like, but find people who are on the path that you want. So for me, it was like finding successful female entrepreneurs who had what I wanted, which was a location independent online business, a coaching business specifically. So I found all these female coaches. I wanted to hit the classic, like 10K a month, 100K a year was like the like holy grail, you know? So I was like only listening to people who were there or beyond, and seeing that constantly just normalized it for me. So then I was like, okay, it's possible. I trust that it's possible for me. Now I just got to figure out what's my version of getting there. Having done this for 12 years and having done a lot of face planting and stumbling and wasting time and all sorts of things in the process, I would say I've moved a lot slower than a lot of my peers. A lot of my internet colleagues have gotten results so like mind-bogglingly fast. And I think the reminder to all of us, regardless of where we are on the journey, is like comparison. If we're judging ourselves, not helpful. Comparison, if you're just looking for inspiration and if you can genuinely find the inspiration, but then not shame yourself, is great. But if you're shaming yourself, don't do it, you know? And so it's like, again, like finding your own way. You know, I've been studying this stuff for 12 years now. I know I have so much business, sales, and marketing knowledge in my head, but it took me a long time to realize that like I was bouncing around from strategy to strategy, mentor to mentor, was always like, oh, this is going to be the thing that this will get me the next level. And so I spent a lot of time learning and not a lot of time executing. And I'm like, if I could go back and tell something to my baby entrepreneur self or anyone who's listening, is like, spend less time learning all the strategy and just go do it. Like, just go do it. I was saying this on another podcast earlier today, that when I went to coaching school, day 1 or day 2 of the first ever class, the girl next to me had launched her business after 1 day of class. It took me another probably 2.5 years to work up the curve because I was like, I'm not confident yet. So I did 6 months of pro bono coaching for 2 people. And I was like, I need the experience before I can call myself. She was just like, screw it, I'm a coach. She hit her first 6 figures within that first year easily because she just didn't overthink it. She just did it. I'm like a classic overthinker, and I attract a lot of overthinkers as clients. So I love getting them out of analysis paralysis and into action, because that's the lesson that it took me so long to learn. So I'm just like, just go, just do the thing, try something, try anything, and then just keep going, keep going, keep going, iterate.
That's lovely. That is fascinating. So if people want more of your wisdom and even want to work with you, where can they reach out and find you?
So I'm lucky that I have a really unique name. As far as I know, there's only one of me. So you can just Google my name and then you'll find me in all the places. So it's sandrapossing.com, at Sandra Possing, and all the social medias. And then once you go to my website, that has everything connected. And I never want to say exactly like what I'm offering, because offerings can change. So just go to the website and that'll be the most recent things there.
Okay, perfect. I will link that all in the show notes for you. And thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. Oh, and I have a podcast as well, if anybody wants to check that out, called Oh Hi Self. It's all about bringing you back home to yourself.
Okay, I love that. I will be sure to link that in there too.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for joining me. Hey, wait, before you go, do you want to increase your income by $1,000 a month? If so, check out our free side hustle guide at www.4leaflifestyle.com/money-ideas. I'll pop it in the show notes for easy access.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Manifestation and Money podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to continue your journey to financial empowerment and creating a life you love, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
Come follow us on Instagram at Manifestation and Money Podcast or at 4Leaf Lifestyle for more inspiration and behind the scenes content. Remember, your life is yours to live. Your financial freedom journey is as unique as you are. So hop in the driver's seat. It's time to create the life of your dreams.